This week's edition of NJBIA's Minding Your Business is brought to you in part by AT&T, helping family, friends, and neighbors connect in meaningful ways every day. New Jersey's community colleges, aligning education to build an innovative workforce. Find out how your business can benefit at njpathways.org. And by New Jersey Business Magazine, providing critical information needs for New Jersey's business community for more than 66 years.
Welcome to NJBIA's Minding Your Business. I'm Bob Considine. Well, the relationship between employer and employee can sometimes be a challenging one that results in legal disputes. But Norris McLaughlin takes a proactive approach to helping both sides protect themselves during a work-related dispute. And here to discuss it all are Norris McLaughlin attorneys and hosts of the Employment Strategists podcast, Mariya, Gonor, and David Harmon. Mariya and David, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right.
Thank you, Bob. Nice to be here.
It's a thrill to have you. And before we get started, I would love for you guys to talk about Norris McLaughlin, this firm. Where are you based, and what kind of services do you provide?
All right. Well, we are a multi-practice law firm of about 120 attorneys. Mm-hmm. We have 3 offices. We're in Bridgewater, New Jersey, New York City, and Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Okay, 3 states.
3 states.
Okay.
Mariya and I co-chair the Executive Compensation and Employment Strategies group.
Okay.
And it's from this that our podcast came about.
All right, so let's talk about that. The podcast is called the Employment Strategists Podcast. How long has it been in existence, and what's the focus of the podcast?
So because our practice is so unique, we focus on representing both employers and employees.
Great.
And we also take a holistic approach to employment law. We practice from the inception of the employment relationship and all the way to counseling and then litigation and ultimate resolution of those disputes. We thought that we should share the wealth of information that we derive from it with small businesses, employers, and employees. And that's how we conceived the Employment Strategist.
It's great. I've listened to a couple episodes. One was on remote work, which was great, and non-competes, which we're going to talk about a little bit later.
Sure.
Great job. Very energetic, I'd say. It's not like you're going to think employment law might be a little dry, but you guys do not make it dry, which is great.
We are very well caffeinated most of the time.
That's great. So let's talk about employer-employee complaints. What is a typical process for employers when they're handling complaints from their HR department to the HR department?
Well, we try to think of this as the 5 R's of HR, right? So the first R is once you get the actual report of the complaint.
Okay.
The next R is review. Once you have the complaint, you got to review your documents, your handbook, your policies, to determine what the next steps should be taken.
Right.
The following step is respond.
Right.
You got to respond to the complaint in some way, and sometimes that involves an investigation. The 4th R is remediate. Once you've conducted the investigation, figured out what the problem is, what is the appropriate remedy, reprimand, and what have you.
Okay.
And then the final R is refrain. We want employers to refrain from retaliating against an employee who brought the complaint, even if ultimately the complaint had no merit.
That's great. I can learn all this. This is good.
So one of the key factors, though, Bob, is that the policies in the handbook are key.
Yeah.
Okay. When there's something that occurs that is problematic, an employee believes that there's an issue that needs to be brought to the attention of HR.
Right.
Policies have to be checked, the handbook has to be checked, and procedures are laid out and should be laid out in the handbook. And that's really your starting point.
Yeah, right. And it's important to have one, too. It's not all employers have a handbook, I understand. So.
And an up-to-date one as well, yes.
When should an employee make a complaint to the HR department? When does that normally happen?
Well, when if you feel that something is happening that isn't right, that is problematic, that is impacting your work environment, someone is doing something wrong, whatever it may be, discrimination, harassment, whatever is addressed within the policies. But if you know that something's wrong, then that's when you consider reporting. And the issues of reporting, there are pros and cons to reporting because people are very concerned, and that's something that we take into account about the impact on the individual employee. What is that going to do for the current job situation, the future, and the attention that will be brought upon that individual for reporting.
Yeah.
But if you don't report it, the company can't do anything to fix it.
Yeah.
And that's the double-edged sword.
The good rule of thumb that I usually advise to my clients is if you feel that something is not right or you're changing the way you engage in your day-to-day activities at work, it's a good idea to talk to an attorney to figure out if your rights are affected, if there's actually a hostile work environment that's being created, and figure out, that could give you confidence to actually speak up. And if not, maybe we can give sometimes some advice on how to handle it without going to HR. But
Right, it's a matter of finding the best strategy, right? The short-term strategy and the longer-term career strategy, and trying to marry those two to come up with the best way to proceed.
Yeah, and I'm almost wondering, sometimes an employee might be a little gun-shy, for lack of a better term, because they're not even sure that if this is a big offense to somebody else but them.
Right.
Well, the fact that we know the law and we prepare policies, we draft the policies, so we understand how policies are supposed to work. So we can help an individual evaluate whether or not there actually is something viable to file a complaint about, and to guide that person through. And it may not be filing a complaint. It may be just how to adjust how they function within the workplace and be mindful of what's happening, and then move forward from there.
Yeah, that's why we think of ourselves as employment strategists as opposed to simply lawyers, because we try to figure out the best way forward for you.
Right. You don't want to be just known as lawyers. It's not.
Right, exactly.
Much higher ground. But as you guys were talking, I was thinking about the role of the HR person in all of this, because in effect they have to protect the company, but they also have to protect the employee. Right. Is that a difficult balance for some HR people?
It is, but if the HR person takes their job appropriately, they will be employees' best ally, right? Because their role is to mitigate risk, exactly like you said, but also ensure that there is a good working environment for all employees.
The HR person, the person in charge of HR, and there may be a team of people working in an HR office, depending upon the size of the employer, has tools. Handbook, policies, the laws, and in-house counsel and outside counsel. So there are resources that HR can and should turn to when these situations come up. And a lot of times that will happen. I mean, investigations that we conduct, we get referrals or reaching out from clients who, whether it's HR or general counsel, to help them assess what the next steps are and what they should do.
Okay, what happens during an investigation?
Okay, an investigation, we start off where we are essentially marshaling all the evidence. And we're putting together, we want the company to provide us with emails, the sum and substance of the complaint. I'm just listing them, not in any particular order, but the sum and substance of the complaint, voicemails, text messages, all we'll call that documentation. Maybe there are videos. We've actually reviewed videos as well. The handbook, the policies, and then what we're going to do is we're going to interview people. We're going to interview the complainant. We're going to interview all those that were in that circle of conduct that was deemed worthy of filing a complaint. And we'll assess that and evaluate it, and then we'll write a report.
What areas of law have been investigated for you guys? I mean, are there, I don't know, give me some examples.
Well, it runs a gamut, right? So the typical one would be an allegation of discrimination, whether it's racial, religious, what have you. Exactly, age, yes.
No, I said wage.
Oh, I'm sorry, wage, yes. Yeah, that's fair.
Wage and age.
Wage and age, yes. Failure to promote, also relating to wage. Sexual harassment. Recently, we had an investigation with allegations of misgendering, which is a big enforcement priority for the EEOC. And we actually had some physical altercations that we've investigated.
Yes, between two C-suite people.
Wow.
Yes, it was caught on video.
Really?
Yeah.
Can we bring them on?
Yes, we'll arrange that.
Right.
Well, we can narrate the video. No, it was really something, all kidding aside, it was really something to have to interview both these people, individuals, and then all the people who witnessed it and who were on the video. Those were the witnesses. Whoever we saw in the video, that's who we interviewed.
Last question on this, disputes. Has there been a case where an investigation's been started and both the employer and the employee said, you know what, we've reached a détente, we're okay, we're going to wipe our hands? And could they do that? I mean, probably not at that point, right? If you've already contacted an attorney, you probably kind of have to keep going forward with it, don't you?
We would typically complete the investigation and, like David said, issue a report and a recommendation. But if the parties have reached a resolution, our recommendation might be in line with whatever resolution was ultimately reached.
Okay.
But once you've started down the path, it's a good exercise for the company to protect itself.
Right.
That I don't know where the resolution is going to, evolve to.
Right.
But I think we both think that investigations once started should be completed, and the report maintained in the file. It's a protective device for the company to have that investigation once started. If it's worthy of the investigation, it's worthy of being completed.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
But to your point, though, once people sit in for interviews with us and once we start asking them questions, a lot of the times that will lead to a resolution because then they understand, what's,
Sure. Because you don't know either way. You don't know if you don't do it, right?
One of the things about the interviews is that when you are conducting the investigation and meeting with people, you learn things and you wind up going down all kinds of side pathways that you didn't anticipate when you started the investigation. And that's very interesting too for us. And you have to determine, is it worthwhile pursuing or is it not? Will it open us up to have to review more documentation and bring in 5 more witnesses because of the names that are mentioned?
Yep.
So that's part of what we do is we have to really figure out what's the most efficient way, cost-efficient way.
Right.
Because you can interview, many people, and some of them are kind of just not, they don't have a role in the incident.
Right.
They're just mentioned.
Very, very interesting stuff. And we could talk about this forever, but I do want to pivot to job transitioning. When someone's changing a job, in some cases, should they contact an attorney before they do?
Always.
Always, really?
No, I'm just putting in a plug for us.
If you have a written document that you have to sign, I would say yes, consult an attorney.
Right.
You want to make sure, one of the things that we check for is to make sure that whatever written document you're presented with is actually representative of what the employer told you the deal is.
Got it. Okay.
So the way I always look at job transitions, they're bookends. Okay, there's your current job with your current documentation, and there's your new job with the new documentation. And there has to be a proper review of what your current documents say, what restrictions they may contain, and how that would impact the move to the new. And then the new one has to reflect what the deal is.
Right.
And then when you're looking at the new one, you also want to know what is the impact of different events of termination.
Right.
I'm going in, it's the beginning of the relationship, but what happens if it goes sour, or I'm terminated, or I leave, or I die, or I'm disabled? I mean, you go through a whole list of change of control. What protections do I have on the back end?
All right, so this leads us down the path of non-competes. From what I understand, the Federal Trade Commission had enacted a ban or voted for a ban of non-competes, but then I think a judge in Texas has kind of gone back on that. So where are we with non-competes?
Well, let me tell you, we had an exciting summer because this was passed in April, and it was supposed to take effect in September, and the ban by the judge came to be in August, towards the end of August.
Yeah, late August.
Yes, so we actually did 2 episodes of our podcast on this very topic.
Right.
But for the employers right now, even though the FTC's ban has been struck down, you still, as an employer, you still want to take a look at your documents because there are changes on the state level that might affect it.
Right, and New York too considered one, and then it didn't. The governor didn't sign it. But there are states that do impose restrictive covenants, non-competes, and as Mariya was saying, these restrictions, such as non-solicitation restrictions, confidentiality, work made for hire, proprietary rights and inventions agreements, all of those are restrictions that can kind of support the non-competes. If this ban had gone through, that's the attack that we would have prescribed. To look at those other restrictions and to see how those protections can still be accomplished to protect the trade secrets and in effect impose a restraint on some of the mobility of employees.
Frankly, for national employers, if you have employees in many different states, another restrictive covenant, even non-solicitation or trade secrets, offers more protection than the actual geographic limit of the non-compete.
Okay. So it sounds to me, you almost stay on the course from what it used to be for years, the non-compete rules, if you're an employer or an employee, correct?
That is true. The landscape is the same, but it still prompts, I think it's a good prompt for employers and employees to take another look at the restrictions that are currently in the agreements, both for the employee to understand what's in those documents and also for the employers to kind of get ahead of the curve a bit as this legislation is coming forward. It may come again from the FTC. They're going to appeal the decision, or at least they're considering it. And then the states, as more and more states may impose restrictions on these non-competes.
Okay. Last question, Mariya and David. I love this. I went to your website, norrismclaughlin.com. You have so much information on there, but one of them was about a year ago. 5 employment mistakes small businesses should avoid. And I'll read them off as you had them. Mishandling coworker disputes or complaints, as we've been talking about. Not having an up-to-date employee handbook. Misclassification of employees, whether they're independent contractors or not. Non-compliance with wage payment laws, and not keeping detailed employment records for your employees. So we're a year out from this post you guys had on the website. Is there anything you would add to that post, not 10 months later?
Yeah, I think we should add providing trainings to the employees and then taking advantage of maybe trade associations or other EOC resources or the New Jersey Department of Labor resources that are available on the website.
And since we are employment strategists looking out for the employee, the employee really, in light of, as you've been reading about, a lot of RIFs are going on, reductions in force, mass terminations.
Right, oh my gosh.
Employees should be putting together what I call their disaster recovery bag. All their employment documents, their plan documents, their grants, their restrictive documents, so that they are prepared when they get a separation agreement to be able to reference those documents and best protect. And of course, seek counsel to understand them. Very good. You guys are good.
Thank you.
I'll tell you. You want to learn more from these folks, you're going to go to norrismclaughlin.com, obviously, and also check out their podcast, the Employment Strategist Podcast. Mariya, Gonor, David Harmon, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
We'll be back right after these words.
Calm before the storm? No, thank you. This is Jim's time to shine. And Mike's. And Jennifer's. Helmets? Check. Drones? Check. Checking that thing we just checked? Double check. We ain't got time to chill. We're out here driving this thing. This is when we get to work. To keep you connected. No matter what. Connect before the storm. Change how we weather them. Connecting changes everything. AT&T.
Welcome back to NJBIA's Mind Your Business. I'm Bob Considine. Well, NJBIA recently hosted its 10th annual Women Business Leaders Forum in Atlantic City, and we take you now to a compelling panel from that 2-day event about how to improve your assertiveness skills. Have a look.
It took me 5 years in my career to learn the word no. I never knew I could say that, right? I was working 80 some odd hours, and one of my managers said, you can say no to this project because I don't know where you'll find the time. And I'm like, what do you mean I can say no? And it blew my mind because I had always said yes. And I think once you start saying no after saying yes, people understand you really mean it. And it's not a matter of poo-pooing on anybody or any project. It's more like you only have so much time to do a good job. And it's okay to say no and assert yourself and your personal boundaries in that way.
And you don't want to be taken advantage of.
Yes.
That's a big thing.
Yes.
You don't always have to say no, right? Like sometimes you want to do that project, but you can't because you have limited time and resources to do it. So if you say no, then it's done, but you really want to do it, right? So maybe the no is, I'd like to do this, but I need to reprioritize other work because I can't do it all, right? So sometimes you have to think of not just no, but your answer needs to be crafted to yield the outcome that you want. If you want no, don't be afraid to say no. My husband's in the back of the room. He'll tell you, I say no all the time. And I have no problem just saying no. But it is hard in a work setting. So that's why I'm always looking to look at the end result that you want and figure out the best way to get there. And if you're not comfortable saying no, there are other words you can use that yield the same results.
I have the perfect thing, and you can write this down where, Jim, I would love to be able to do this project. It excites me. What can we remove from my to-do list to make room for this? So it's more of a collaborative, how do we get to a yes? It's not a no,
Exactly.
right? It's more of let's reprioritize what else I'm doing so that we can do this project that is a yes.
Get yourself a hype guy. Because if you don't have a friend or a partner or a colleague who is going to tell you all of the great things that you don't see in yourself, because I guarantee you don't see it in yourself. You need that person to build your self-confidence, right? So that hype person builds a self-confidence. You also need to try to frame everything using positive words. I get hung up on words, and I've learned to get hung up on words, not because they affect me, but I've noticed some words can affect other people. We've all also become more in tune to different mental health issues, right? We're all different people. I'm aggressive. I have colleagues in the room. I'm not going to point her out, but she's very non-aggressive and non-assertive. So for my colleague to speak up in a meeting and speak her opinion, I'm so proud of her to do that. And that's a progress for her, but that's not progress for me. So get yourself a hype guy or gal. Try to frame everything as positively as you can, but understand who's receiving the message and tone your assertiveness to mirror that person so that you're not maybe going a little too far and bleeding into the aggressive side.
I was in a situation recently where I was on a group call and it was being run by a male who I have respect for, it was a technical conversation, and I'm less technical than a lot of people there. And he said, there are no dumb questions. So I asked a question that I did not think was dumb. And he said, I'm not even going to answer that. It was that kind of a situation. And I was really taken aback, but I want to tell you that there were no other questions on the call, because when somebody does something like that to you, then everybody else is going to be concerned that it's going to happen to them. So sometimes you can be assertive, but if the person who is assertive in a wrong way, it makes them look bad. So you have to be really careful about how you phrase things, and you have to also give people respect. So assertiveness, but with respect.
The second thing that you were talking about is knowing your environment. And that was something I learned as well. I have a very sarcastic personality, and also a very light or a weak facial filter, meaning that I'm very expressive. And yeah, there's a sign on my desk that says my face is not responsible for what it does while you speak. But then once you are in a managerial role, a leadership role, recognize that whether you want it to or not, people are looking for you to be assertive and of authority. And so you can't always make jokes, or you have to understand that they could be taken differently. And it's like, don't they know me? And it's like, yeah, but you're in charge now. So they're going to hear that differently. And you just need to be aware of that. It's a weapon and a strength.
So I'm not sure if it was Andrew Huberman or Tim Ferriss that had this idea to get through rejection. And I'll come back to where this ties in. To get through rejection, go to Starbucks and McDonald's or wherever and ask for a 10% discount. And they're more than likely to say no, but sometimes they'll say yes. But what did that cost you, right? It was 5 seconds of your time, small exercise in accepting rejection, and then sometimes you get that win. Do the same thing with being assertive. If you're not currently assertive, or if you could be a little bit more assertive, yet on the good or aggressive side, and see where you can exert yourself, go a little bit out of your comfort zone, so that when you're doing it when it doesn't matter, it's easier. But then when you do it when it does matter, it's easier there too.
Finally today, we proudly celebrate the 10-year anniversary of our CEO, Michele Siekerka, being at NJBIA. Have a look at our tribute to our tireless and fearless leader and the top advocate for business in the state of New Jersey.
I was incredibly proud and honored that I was chosen to lead this organization.
My message to the members of NJBIA are that we are here to be your voice.
So I've had great experiences that have helped to inform and help me grow. But over the last 10 years, I'd say, I've grown exponentially from there.
Michelle's really special because of her collaborative nature. She's able to convene many different people around an issue and able to facilitate that issue through. It's really a unique skill.
Michele has incredible energy that never seems to end, and it's something that I always appreciate when she walks into a room, and something that can change the environment in a room so quickly, and it's something I carry with me every day.
Michele is downright transformative. As one of the longest tenured employees here, there's been more change in the last 10 years than there have been in the last 40.
Michele inspires so many people every day, whether it's at BIA, whether it's different nonprofits, whether it's family, friends. She is an all-around great person.
So Michele, to me, is truly an inspirational leader. The way she handled COVID, leading this state through COVID, that to me is an inspirational leader. And that's why she has employees like me who will run through a wall for her.
As somebody at BIA who has been involved in BIA's advocacy efforts for over 20 years, I am confident, I am sure that BIA is a better place because of her leadership of the organization over the past 10 years, but the business community and the business community being in front of the legislature, in the State House, our advocacy efforts are better because Michele's been here.
I'd like to say congratulations to my beloved friend Michele of 10 years of excellent stewardship of NJBIA. Now, I don't want to impugn her business bona fides, but this Democrat also loves Michele for her commitment and her compassion to second chances.
Hey Michele, congratulations on 10 years at NJBIA. New Jersey is a better place because of your efforts.
Michele, congratulations on 10 years at NJBIA. I got to tell you, it seems like yesterday we had started working together. And NJBIA is really fortunate to have someone like yourself that is advocating on a regular basis for the things you guys believe in. Again, congratulations on the 10 years.
Michele, congratulations on your 10th anniversary at NJBIA, and thank you for all that you and the organization have been doing to keep New Jersey businesses strong.
Michele, congratulations for your first 10 years at NJBIA, and thanks for everything you do every single day for New Jersey business.
Michele, 10 years at NJBIA, congratulations. Thank you for what you do each and every day for New Jersey's business community. And thank you for what you do for all of New Jersey.
Hey Michele, Bill Spadia here. Congratulations, 10 years at NJBIA. You know, when I think of the organization, you guys are fantastic, and it's your leadership that keeps New Jersey small businesses strong. Thanks for everything that you have done. Here's to 10 more years.
Hi Michele, congratulations on 10 years of your dedicated work to our business community and to New Jersey. You've always been such a great partner, and I sincerely appreciate everything you've done. Thanks again.
Hey Michele, it's Cory Booker here, sharing my best wishes and congratulations to you as you celebrate 10 years as president and CEO of NJBIA. I celebrate you, I rejoice in you, I appreciate all of your service to the business community over the last decade, and I continue to look forward to partnering with you, being in continued partnership for years to come. Thank you for being such a powerful leader and light worker.
Hi, this is Governor Chris Christie. What a great day to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Michele Siekerka's leadership of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. You know, Michele was a huge part of the business support that I received during my 8 years as governor. Whenever a key business issue came up, Michele Siekerka was one of the first people I'd call to get her opinion, because I know that her opinion was informed not only by her great experience, but also by the experience of every one of NJBIA's members. So Michele, congratulations on 10 great years in charge of NJBIA, and I hope that NJBIA is smart enough to keep you around to convince you to stay for 10 more.
All right, thanks to all of our featured guests in our Michele Siekerka tribute, and thank you for joining us on NJBIA's Minding Your Business. We'll see you next time.